So, can I be really honest with you? This wasn't actually the episode I planned to record this week, but a few nights ago, I found myself in a place I don't think we talk about enough. That dark place. The place where one bad day convinces you you're failing at everything, where one mistake at work suddenly means you're a terrible leader, where a dream you've poured your heart into starts feeling embarrassing, where you question whether you're a good mom, whether you're on the right path, whether God has forgotten about you, and whether everything you've worked so hard for has been for nothing. I went there, and if I'm being completely transparent, it kind of scared me. Not because I had all the answers, but because I realized how quickly my mind took a few hard facts and turned them into a story about who I was. And I have a feeling I'm not the only one who's been there. Welcome to this episode of Fit Fuel Female. So today, I don't have 5 tips to feel better. I just want to talk about the dark place because I think a lot more of us visit it than we're willing to admit. And look, we all have really hard days, really hard weeks, sometimes really hard months or years. And what's interesting is it's usually not the biggest thing that breaks us. It's the one last thing. The email, the meeting, the comment, the disappointment, the thing that on any other day you would have probably handled just fine. This week, I had one of those weeks. A lot of things just didn't go the way I had hoped, one thing after another. Some things went wrong, and some things went really right, actually. And the crazy part is, I couldn't even see the things that went right because I was so deep in my own head. Looking back now, nothing was actually catastrophic. The earth didn't shatter, my career didn't end, the people I love, they didn't leave. Nothing was really that bad. But me? I almost let it break me because I went to that dark place. That place I think we all go. For me, it maybe happens a couple times a year. And it's not that dramatic breakdown where I'm crying on the floor and someone needs to come rescue me. It's actually much more quieter than that. It's the moment where I think, I can't do this anymore. I don't know how to keep moving forward. I can't go forward. I can't go backward. I can't even go sideways. I just feel stuck. And that's when the dark thoughts, they start creeping in. I start to literally question everything. My purpose, my worth, whether any of this even matters. Not because I truly want it all to end, but because in those moments, I desperately need and want the pressure to stop. And those are two very different things. Here's what I've learned about the dark place. The dark place doesn't lie by making up facts. The facts are usually real. The lie was what I made them mean. And I think that's especially true for us high-performing women. We're built to carry, we push through, we solve problems, we figure it out, we don't quit. Every single day, we choose the harder path because we believe that's where growth lives. Even when the easier path is sitting right in front of us, we almost never take it. And for a while, that strength, it serves us until one day, it doesn't. One of the coaches at Orange Theory always says, you're stronger than you think. And I absolutely believe that's true. But here's what I've realized. Sometimes our strength becomes the very thing that actually breaks us. Because we're so used to carrying the weight that we don't even notice how heavy it's become. We tell ourselves, just get through today. Just get through quarter end. Just get through this launch. Just get through soccer season. And before we know it, we've been surviving for months. And we don't even know how to ask for help. We don't know how to put something down. We don't even know who we are when we're not achieving something. And then one day, something relatively small happens, and it isn't the thing that breaks us. It's the thing that reveals we've been breaking for a while. So what do we do when we find ourselves there? What do we do when we find ourselves in this dark place? Because I know this has happened to more of you than you will ever admit. Some of you are listening thinking, yep, I've been there. Others are thinking, I would never tell another soul. Some of us are ashamed by it. Some of us have just accepted it's part of who we are. I don't have a silver bullet. I can only tell you what happened to me. So the first thing, I didn't fight it very well. I really let it consume me for almost 24 hours. And here's what surprised me. There was actually a moment where I thought I had snapped out of it. I thought, okay, I'm good. Then one tiny inconvenience happened, and I was right back there. That told me something. I wasn't actually okay yet. I was just trying to outrun what I hadn't processed. You have to go through it. This wasn't one of those buckle up buttercup moments, think positive, get over it kind of moments. It was you've got to go through it. And the only way through it is actually to sit in it for me. That night I came home, I had dinner with my family, I talked to my husband. I wasn't crying, I wasn't yelling, I was just numb. I said things out loud that sounded really extreme, not because I wanted to act on them, but because I needed to get the thoughts out of my head. Sometimes the thoughts lose their power the moment they're spoken. And then I did the only thing I really knew how to do. I prayed. Not one of those polished church prayers, an honest one. I basically said, God, I can't do this anymore. I need you. I feel like you've abandoned me, and deep down I know you haven't, but you know how I'm wired. I need to hear from you because I can't hear anything else right now. Have you ever prayed one of those prayers? The ones where you're not trying to sound faithful, you're just trying to be honest? That was mine. And then he answered. The next morning I woke up, got in my car, and like I do every morning on my way to work out, I turned on my daily prayer. And I don't know how else to explain it. It was exactly what I needed to hear. The entire message was about not allowing one moment to define your future, not allowing one setback to convince you that everything you built was meaningless, not letting one hard season become your identity. And sitting there in my car, I just smiled because I knew, not that all my problems had disappeared, but that God had heard me. He didn't erase the pressure. He reminded me of the truth. And honestly, at that moment, that was exactly what I needed. Then something kind of shifted. I went into work, my team was laughing. Someone cracked a joke, I laughed. Not because I forced myself to, but because for the first time in a couple of days, something felt light again. And there wasn't some huge breakthrough. There wasn't some life-changing realization. It was just like the fever broke. Looking back, I didn't solve every problem. The pressure didn't magically disappear. My circumstances hadn't really changed, but my perspective had. And once my perspective changed, I could finally see what had been true all along. So here's what I can say about the dark place. Pain doesn't just hurt. It tells stories. Stories that say you're not enough. Stories that say your dream is over. Stories that say you've failed. Stories that say God has forgotten you. But here's the beautiful thing. Just because your mind tells a story, it doesn't mean that God is writing the same one. You know what I realized after I came out of it? I didn't stop at work. I went looking for evidence everywhere. Work, you don't belong here. You don't deserve this job. Motherhood, you're a terrible mom. You're not present enough. Marriage, you're not doing enough for your husband. Friendship, you've been a really bad friend lately. My family, you're letting everyone down. My podcast, who are you even talking to every week? Nobody cares. Why are you pouring your heart into something that isn't growing? Maybe it's just time to give up. And even fitness. You're not fast enough anymore. You're not strong enough. What's happening to you? Do you see what I did? I became like the prosecutor in my own trial. I walked into every corner of my life looking for evidence that I wasn't enough. And the scary part? Once your mind has already decided you're guilty, it will find evidence literally anywhere. It doesn't matter how many good things happened this week. I closed deals. I had great conversations. I laughed with my team. I had a husband who loved me. I had healthy kids. None of it counted because my mind wasn't looking for hope. It was looking for confirmation. And that's what the dark place does. It convinces you to build a case against yourself. And can I tell you what I wish someone would have told me this week? I wish someone would have reminded me that I didn't have to believe every story my mind was telling me. Because when I was in that dark place, I wasn't just questioning one thing. I was questioning everything. I walked into every corner of my life looking for evidence that I wasn't enough. Work, I convinced myself I didn't belong there. Motherhood, I convinced myself I wasn't doing enough. Marriage, I convinced myself I was falling short. Friendship, family, my fitness, this podcast, there wasn't a single part of my life that escaped my criticism. I left no part of my life unaccused. And looking back now, I realize I wasn't searching for truth. I was searching for confirmation. Confirmation that I wasn't enough. Confirmation that I had failed. Confirmation that maybe I should just give up. And here's what I want you to hear if you're listening to this from your own dark place. Don't become the prosecutor in your own trial. Don't spend your energy building a case against yourself, because once your mind has decided you're guilty, it'll find evidence everywhere. It'll take one hard week and convince you you've had a hard life. It'll take one mistake and convince you you are one. It'll take one setback and convince you that your story is over. But here's what I now know that I couldn't see then. The facts may be true. The meaning you've attached to those facts, though, may not be. The dark place doesn't lie by making up facts. It lies by convincing you what those facts mean about you. So, before you make a permanent decision, before you quit the job, before you walk away from the dream, before you decide you're not enough, give tomorrow a vote. Because sometimes tomorrow doesn't change your circumstances. Sometimes it simply changes your perspective. Which brings me to this week's power move. It's simple. Because if you are in that dark place, I don't want to give you another thing to accomplish. I want to give you a way to interrupt the story. Sometime today, grab your notes app, a journal, a sticky note, I don't care where. At the top, I want you to write 2 words, fact and story. And then I want you to ask yourself, what's the fact? Not the emotion, not the assumption, not the fear, just the fact. And maybe the fact is, I had a hard week. I didn't get the promotion. My business isn't growing as fast as I had hoped. I had a fight with my husband. Now, go ask yourself, what's the story I'm telling myself because of that fact? I'm not enough. I'll never succeed. I'm failing. God's forgotten me. And then here's the most important question. Who wrote the story? Was it God or was it fear? Because those are not the same author. I can't promise the fact will change overnight, but I can promise you this. When you separate the fact from the story, you stop giving permission to fear to write the ending. So what's been fueling me through all of this? This week, my willingness to be honest. Honest with myself, honest with my husband, honest with God, and now honest with all of you. Look, I know this episode has been heavier than most, maybe heavier than you expected. But I also think these are the conversations we just don't have enough. Because here's what I've learned. When we're not honest about how we're feeling, that dark place, it only gets darker. The thoughts don't disappear because we ignore them. They get louder. I wasn't proud of every thought I had this week. I wasn't proud of how quickly I turned on myself. I wasn't proud that I questioned my worth, my purpose, my calling, and just about every other part of my life. But it happened. That was my reality. And I had to be honest enough to face it before I could move through it. And that's why I wanted to share this with you. Not because I have it all figured out. Not because I'm standing on the other side pretending it was easy. But because if even one woman listening thinks, oh my gosh, I thought I was the only one, then this conversation was worth having. I've always believed this podcast wasn't meant to be perfect. I believe it was meant to be real. So I will keep talking about the hard things. I'll keep telling you the truth. I'll keep showing up as a woman who's still learning, still growing, still getting it wrong sometimes. Because if we're going to build strong women, it starts by creating a place where they never have to pretend they're okay when they're not. As I wrap up this episode, I think maybe I finally understand why Fit Fuel Female exists. It was never about having all the answers. It was never about pretending I've got life figured out. It was never about being the loudest voice in the room. It was about creating a place where high-performing women don't have to pretend. A place where we can celebrate our wins, but also be really honest about our struggles. A place where strength isn't defined by carrying everything alone. A place where we can admit, I'm not okay today. And we can admit that without feeling like somehow we've failed. Because here's what I know now. If this week taught me anything, it's that vulnerability, it isn't weakness. Sometimes vulnerability is the bravest thing we can do. To everyone who has listened to this podcast, who has shared an episode, who has sent me a message, who has encouraged me when I questioned whether I should keep doing this, thank you. Not because you're the reason I keep going, but because you've reminded me that this conversation matters. You've reminded me that there are women out there who don't need another perfect influencer. They need someone willing to tell the truth. And if this episode resonated with you, would you please do me one favor? Share it with one woman, just one. Not because I'm chasing numbers, but because I know deep down in my heart there are women sitting in their cars at their desks, lying awake at night, believing the same exact lies I believe this week. And maybe this episode is the reminder they need, that they're not alone. My goal is to make an impact. If one conversation changes just one life, that's impact. And I believe with everything in me that our impact can go so much further than we think. Mine and yours. So let's keep showing up. Let's keep having the hard conversations. Let's keep reminding each other that we're stronger together than we ever are alone. So until next week, stay fit, stay fueled, and stay becoming the strongest, healthiest, most authentic version of yourself. I can't wait to see you next time.